Hi, everyone. How are you? I'm going to tell you that today I'm going to be speaking specifically about the gospel that's coming up this weekend. The other readings and even more information about the gospel you can find on the Family Faith page from FLOM, from Gospel Weeklies. So you get in more detail. As you know, we post that every week. So you will be able to see see the specifics of it. But today I really want to focus on the gospel because this is a heavy duty gospel. Uh, when you first read it, and I'm going to read this portion to you, and you have known it, you've seen it, but I just want to repeat it because I think it's important for us to take in these words. But in the days after that tribulation, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not have its light, and the stars will be falling from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. So the Gospel of Mark gives us a pretty scary, you know, uh, thoughts here. Like what's going to happen? Is this, what does this mean? And before we get into the rest of the gospel to see what the meaning of this might be, we have to remember the doxology when we're at Mass. Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. And this is about Christ coming again. Now, even for adults to read this, it could be scary. For older kids, it could be scary. And for little kids, this is really scary. What does this mean? And we have to keep in mind that the gospel writers wrote about this, thinking the second coming of Jesus is what this is about, was going to happen soon. Well, 2,000 years later, it hasn't happened. And I don't know, maybe the second coming, not as dramatic, but maybe we experience little second comings in our encounters with Christ. I don't know. Just a thought that I think about sometimes. Um, that it's not the end of times, but sometimes we have to meet and re-meet Jesus along the way of our journey of our spiritual development. And so, nonetheless, it seems very scary. This is going to happen, but then we get filled with hope. When the Son of Man comes, things will be better. But we have to be on the watch. What does that mean? That means we have to look around us and see when does that happen? How do we live our lives so that we are careful? And I think it just means living, a good life in spite of the instability of life that can surround us. And I think we know that it does surround us. We're up against so many different things that we live with. I just think of my grandchildren in terms of social media and um, the fear of war and the instability that we live with, from different things around the world, that it can be scary. Like, where's this going? Um, you know, when are the end of times coming? We don't know that. So Jesus says to us, be watchful, be ready, uh, be at a point where you can welcome, your Lord and your God. I belong to a couple of groups in my church, and one is called Alpha. I facilitate a group about this. It's for people who are looking to get closer to Jesus or God, or find out things about their own faith. What does that mean to them as adults? Things that you've learned all before, but now it's time to relearn it as adults. And one of the questions that came up early on in the time that we have together was, what questions would you ask God if you were able to ask God questions face to face? And I thought about this for myself. People say, well, why is there war? Why is there cancer? Why do people have to suffer? Those questions, which we realize, God, God doesn't give us those things. They come probably most likely from us ourselves. When I thought about it for myself, um, I thought about, I really don't have any questions. I've asked those questions along the way through my own sufferings, through my own experiences, life experiences, through the things that I've been handed and dealt with, and how to make that, how to live through that, navigate life without certain people, without things that are really important to me that are not here any longer. But there's also hope in the message. And this is what happens in this gospel today. We also have hope because the Son of Man will be coming again. When, we don't know, but in the meantime, how do we live with it? And it was interesting because, this is a promise of Christ that he gives us himself, what will happen the end, that he's coming back. Again, we don't know. But how do we live that? And how do we teach those we teach how to live that when they're going through not it's so many times these young kids, young children, young disciples think, it's so hard. It is dark. It's bleak. It's, scary. How do we teach them? How do we teach ourselves? And I've been thinking about that question a lot because, like, Lord, what do you want me to do with all of this? And I belong to another group at church. It's a women's spirituality group. And we were told, we were asked, not told, we were asked we're going to be reading this book and we're going to discuss it next week. It's a very small book. It's called Holy Moments by Matthew Kelly. And it's basically about, how do we create holy moments in spite of all that's going on around us? How do we do that? And he gives very specific reasonings, be kind to others. It's nothing new. Be kind to others, help us be open to holy moments in our own lives when people are kind and when people, it's very good for us to realize that. We need to teach our children, our young disciples, about holy moments and how they can create them, uh, how they can be open to them when they realize it. Because at the end of the day, it's about Jesus being with us all times, whether it's dark, whether it's light, whether whatever, Jesus is always with us. I think little children or younger children get that concept. Everyone gets that concept. But, we have to show them and kind of live it. Um, how are we examples of finding that for our own selves and sharing those happy moments with others? So it's a cute little read. It's not cute. It's meaningful. It's a nice read. What I meant by cute, it's short. And I had a holy moment not too long ago as I wasn't here last week because I was in Europe and I was in France and Italy and in Portugal. Came home yesterday, so if I seem a little tired, I am. I'm suffering a little bit from jet lag, but I'll let you know at 4 o'clock. I'm sure it'll be even better. But one of the things I wanted to do, when we went to Normandy first, which was very emotional for me, having had uncles and, fight in World War II and being a part of that D-Day experience. So that was very emotional for me. And then on the way to D-Day to Normandy is a town of Lisieux, where Saint Teresa, the little flower, um, was born and lived and raised and died at the age of 24. I wanted to stop there because she's my patron, and I've always felt very close to her. To this day, I pray to her when I'm going to teach, whether I'm going to present, whatever it is. I've always felt she was a companion to me, and I kept praying to her and said, "You've got to get me to where you were. I need to be there." And I did, and I got to see the cathedral, and I got to see where her home was, and I got to see, there's a chapel where her remains are, you know, and you see her body, it's redone, but her real remains are, like, underneath. And that was very, very special to me, and it was interesting because we had a private driver, because we weren't gonna take trains and all that from Paris, and just get us a driver, we didn't care how much it cost. And so he stopped, and he was not of the Catholic faith. I don't believe he was Christian, he might have been Muslim, I mean, I'm not sure. So all this was new to him, and we dragged him through, the chapel, and he goes, "Oh my god," just explaining who she was. And you go into the cathedral, and there's pictures of her all different times of her life, and it's really, really cool. And you can put prayer requests and all of that. And I was telling him about the roses that, uh, she always promised us roses from heaven, from the heavenly garden. And so we finished what we were doing, we were looking at, and I did not realize that, where's my thing here? Wait, oh, hold on a second. Okay, I did not realize that coming out of that, um, chapel was a rose bush. Now, the temperature is similar to what we deal with here at this time, it's a little higher, but didn't realize it was a rose bush. It just eluded me as I walked by, and this gentleman driver happened to see it, and he gave me a rose from that bush. And let me tell you, that for me was a holy moment. The fact that this man who had no idea, does not know the history of our faith tradition, does not know the history of saints, but he knew this was important to me. And that gesture for me was so powerful, that I felt a transition going on within myself, some kind of transformation. Certainly felt so much closer to my patron. Uh, I just was floored by it. So this was a nice surprise from God, and it made my heart just filled with love from this, from this whole day that was there. And certainly, for me, you talk about Paris, you talk about, Italy, this for me was my high point of my trip to Europe. So I wanted to share that with you. So always be aware of the holy moments you can create, but that the holy moments that are given to you and to us, because that is where Christ is, you know? Christ is risen. We know that he's coming again, but he's here. And to live that uh, with him and to have that in mind is one of the greatest gifts of our faith. And we teach the younger children, we teach all of us. It's multi-generational to know that our God, our Jesus, is always with us no matter what. uh, and to be aware and to teach them. It's like, kind of teaching them about discernment and what is the Holy Spirit saying to you. It's the same kind of principle. How do I see a holy moment? It's something they should be made aware of and think about every day. So great lesson in our faith development and our faith formation. And I wanted to share that with you. So go back to, when you see the readings for this coming Sunday, read, more specifics in terms of the readings in the gospel responsorial psalm that I usually see every week. But I just wanted to share with you my story. And thank you for listening. And to remember that the promise of Jesus is still there. And there's always hope. And there's always knowing that our Christ will come again. I mean, he will. And who knows? In our lifetime, we don't know. But hopefully that's doesn't that's not the reason we'll already be with him. But you know, he will know, but you have to be prepared, and prepared by preparing ourselves and teaching. And the what you've been given to do, asked to do, is so important in the faith lives of all of us. Thank you. Thank you for letting me share, and I will see you next week. God bless.